Hello and welcome back to the channel, or welcome to the channel, whichever one applies to you. My name is Kai, and this time we are talking about animals again, but in a more, in a different kind of way than, like the Can the Dogs Understand Human Language video. I was debating on whether or not to make the topics of this video, because there's two main topics, whether or not to split this into two different videos or into one big video. So I think I'm gonna just try to do one big video, but I'll go through one topic first, and then if I feel like it's already pretty long, or I just realize that it's not nearly as connected as I thought, then I'm gonna do two videos. No Stitch blanket hoodie today because it is quite warm here in Texas today. We are about to be getting a crazy northern wind, like blow in kind of cold front, and I guess in the wake of that, the temperature is rising. I don't know. So yeah. So I'm gonna tell you the two topics, and then I'm gonna dive into the first one because a video I was watching got me thinking on this, and it's a subject that I've thought about a lot. So, the first topic is how, like, people think about kids when they're like kids, and how like adults treat children in certain ways. And I'm not talking about uh like diddling them and stuff. I'm talking about um well, you'll see, but it's not anything sexual in nature. It's more so about like child development and how adults perceive children as they develop. Um and then the other topic is just how weird humans are in general. Like, this has been talked about like so much in like the Humans Are Space Orcs uh, stuff, and like when people realize just how crazy some of the things we do are. And I'm gonna kind of try to explain the best way that I can why we're like this now. And it's kind of been somewhat scientifically proven. Like, there is evidence for what I'm going to talk about. Let me move my monster. Always got the monster. The My favorite flavor currently, the Ultra Vice Guava. Like, overall best monster flavor in my opinion. Amazing flavor. Um, anyway, so into the first topic with kids and stuff. So I saw a YouTube short which got me thinking about this again. Um, and it was one of those same ones as like the what prompted me to make the dog human language video, which is it was a post about from a teacher on Reddit, and it, over like put over the Minecraft parkour stuff playthroughs. And essentially this person was talking about how they teach history, I'm assuming, and they were going through like 1800s, the 1800s and stuff, and how their students were, asking the questions like, where are they now? Like, what are they doing? Like, are they all dead? And the teacher was like, well, yeah, they're all dead. They're all dead. They're dead, completely dead. And one of their students, and these are like young students, these are like 8-year-olds or something, like 8, 9-year-olds, maybe 10-year-olds. It's like middle to late elementary age, maybe middle school, like early middle school. And one of this person's students was like, oh, so you're the last one left. And it wasn't like an insult, because kids see older people as like older than they actually are, because they don't, like, it's just how they perceive them. Um, it was more so because this teacher specifically dresses in a very similar fashion to the people of the 1800s, specifically like Englishmen from the 1800s, like, and they had made an edit to the post to explain this, because so many people were talking about how kids are assholes and this and that. And this teacher essentially was like, explain what I just explained, how the kids weren't being, like, that kid wasn't being an asshole. They were like asking a genuine question because of the way that this teacher dresses and stuff. And they made a point that I've made multiple times to people who I've worked with in childcare settings and like education settings, where like people will just see a kid like ask a question like this and be like, oh, that kid's being such an asshole. And it's like, no, the like kids are just little humans learning to be humans. Like, and so that's gonna take me like directly into this comparison that I've been thinking about a lot, where if you're watching this video, you've probably seen like videos or like read stories or whatever about like different animals essentially adopting like abandoned like babies of a different species of animals. So like a mama bear adopting like a kitten that they found abandoned in a forest or something, like, or like a dog adopting a kitten, or like a mama cat adopting a puppy, which this happens all the time in nature. It happens all the time. We just don't always see it. And the thing that all of these stories have in common is that as these baby animals grow up into adult animals, they start exhibiting more and more behaviors of their like surrogate parent figures. So like the kitten raised by a dog and has no other cats around, acts like a dog, and people often say my cat thinks it's a dog or my dog thinks it's a cat. And this is a very real phenomenon that happens, because yeah, like a kitten that's raised by a dog will still have like the base instincts of a cat, so it will still have the instincts to go and hunt. It will still have the instincts to like uh take naps throughout the day to conserve energy, because that's how cats evolved. They're opportunistic hunters, because they never know where their next meal is going to come from, usually like before they were super domesticated. Um, and but most of their behaviors are going to be more like the parental animal figure that they had that raised them. Um, and uh, it it's pretty clear to me that a lot of like animal behavior comes from uh, them learning it from what they perceive as their parent, and that parent is teaching them like how to do the things that are typical for that animal. So like a so I'm just gonna stick with this dog raising a kitten example for now, and I'm gonna get into an example that is more drastic later. But so like a dog that raises a kitten and there's no other cats around, it will teach the kitten like how to play like a dog. It will teach the kitten will learn from like watching this dog that it believes is its parent, like the ways that dogs like to exercise and stuff like this, um how they elicit food and positive like interactions from the humans, and um and how to like communicate like a dog. So like you'll often notice with these, especially in um like dogs raising kittens or cats raising puppies, um the communication style of this kitten that's being raised by a dog will be very, very similar to a dog's communication style, more so than a cat's. So like they'll do like their best attempt at barking and growling, like they don't hiss as much. um the tail indicators and the ear indicators are more similar to dogs than to cats in this situation. And so like a lot of what we perceive as like inherent human behaviors are actually just learned from our parents or other adults or other kids depending on the age. And it's like if that's all you've ever seen and all you ever know, that's what you're going to think is normal for you. Like if you identify as a human, uh you're gonna assume that it's normal to, especially in like America, if you are raised by human parents and you're a human in America, so you identify as a human, you're going to think that it's completely normal to eat most meals with silverware, to drink out of cups and bottles, to take a shit on the toilet and flush it and wipe your ass with toilet paper. Like to take showers like at least every other day, to brush your teeth. All of these things are going to seem very, very normal to you because it's all you've ever known. But now we get into the more drastic example I was talking about. And then after this drastic example, I'll kind of tie this into why I'm giving these examples in the first place and how this relates to how adults treat children and think about their development. So there's this story, and there's this story that has gone around the internet a lot of times. It was on most of the major news networks back when it happened. Like a lot of people know about it. and it's been highly debated as either being factual or non-factual for decades now. But there is a story of this human woman who was found deep in a forest, like super deep in the forest, and she was completely feral. Like, she had no human speech at all. She primarily like transported herself on all fours. um she really only ever exhibited like what we consider animalistic behaviors, and she was found around a hold on. She was found around an area known for um being home to like a pack of wolves, and they figured out that this woman had been abandoned as a child, like a very, very young child, like not quite an infant, but like possibly not even into her toddler years. I can't remember exactly, it's been a while. But they're pretty sure that she was abandoned sometime really, really early on in childhood. So like before she really got um into the whole normalcy of human life. And like they noticed that she exhibited primarily like behaviors that are primarily attributed to wolves, especially like the specific um wolves that were in that area. And so they concluded that when she was abandoned, the wolves found her, and instead of eating her, they took her in and raised her as part of the pack. And it took them literal years to even get her to understand human language, um, to not exhibit wild animal behaviors. So here's how this ties into human children and how adults tend to perceive them. So adults will usually see kids ask specific questions that for us the answers are completely obvious, or do certain things that to adults it's completely obvious that this is a dumb thing to do, or like not like not conducive to really anything productive that we consider conductive. um they're loud, obnoxious. They have minimal impulse control, like all these things that we know are like characteristics of children. But what most people don't ever seem to think about is that kids are just growing human beings that are learning how to be a human being, right? So, like, we have to teach our babies when they get old enough how to hold silverware and how to use it properly. We have to teach our children how to use the bathroom, when to go use the toilet. We have to teach them how to shower. We have to teach them how to wipe their butt. We have to teach them how to tie their shoes. And like, it's just, none of this is inherent, which same as like human language. It's not inherent, it's learned. And so like, when a kid is constantly pushing buttons on an adult, it's not that they're specifically targeting you and being an asshole to you to piss you off. It's, they're trying to see what the line is. And they do this to every, like in schools, the button pushing kids, they do it to every adult. At first, they start out doing this to every adult, like every teacher, their parents, every teacher, like every adult family member. They push buttons until you blow up. I've had this happen to me. I was a button pusher kid. And it's just, it generally, because I'm not going to say every button pusher kid is like this, because some of them are like, they have learned that if they push buttons enough, they will piss off an adult, and they just kind of find it funny to piss off adults for whatever reason. Maybe their only like way to like establish some form of control when they understand what control is. But generally, the button pusher kids are not trying to be assholes and trying to like piss you off because it's fun. They want to know what the line is. Like, when does this go from just fun, like like a fun back and forth kind of thing to, oh, I need to stop because now they're really mad, and you know, I shouldn't go this much. Or another thing is, they are trying to understand what like emotional regulation is, and and like, I'm having a really hard time putting this into words because it's for me, it's a hard concept to really like verbalize. But they're like they know that adults generally can handle you pushing buttons. So like the why phase, like asking why for everything. They want to see how far you will go in explaining these things before like you lose that composure, because they want to see like what exactly is it that makes someone lose composure. And the best way to do that is to do this with someone who has the ability to maintain emotional composure for a long period of time, like adults. And so they push and push and push and push, and then at a certain point of pushing these buttons, they get a different reaction, you know? And for us, it's, for adults, it's really easy generally to kind of pick up when someone is starting to get frustrated by tone of voice, like how short the replies become and stuff. And so we know that once someone starts having like a frustrated tone of voice, or what we like a tone of voice that we associate with frustration or aggravation, we know to stop. And we know to like just stop and leave them alone for a while and let them chill out, because otherwise they're going to yell. And how did we learn this? by seeing it happen, by either causing it to happen ourselves or seeing another kid who did it and the response to it over time. And so they'll push and push and push and push, and then you get really upset and you're like, oh my God, just shut the fuck up. Just shut up. Leave me alone. I don't know. And so they're like, okay. So that was a lot. That was too much. Let me try something else. And then like maybe the next day they'll push and push and push, but then they won't go all the way to the edge. So like instead of pushing you to the point where you blow up, they'll push you just to the point where like you're kind of like shaking. You're like, I don't know, you know. And they're like, okay, so there is a point where it goes from this to this, and then maybe they'll switch lanes and start pushing other buttons to see what all causes that same like blow up reaction. And if you're working in childcare or you're working in like an education environment, you'll you should be very aware of the advice that most like more experienced people in that field will give you when you're like, hey, I don't know what to do about this fucking kid. He's constantly like doing this one specific thing that he knows pisses me off, and I just feel like he's doing it on purpose. And they're like, yeah, he is, because he wants this reaction. He wants this. You need to stop giving him buttons to push. And so like you do that. You stop reacting to him pushing these buttons, and then like after a few times of him doing that and you're not giving the same reaction, he's like, whoa, this is weird. Like this was working and now it's not working. Why is it not working? And so then they go and find more buttons to push, and then you go back to that teacher and you're like, oh my God, it's not fucking working. Like I did what you said and he stopped, but now he's pushing these other buttons and now he's doing this and now this is really pissing me off. And they're like, yeah, he's exploring this whole social thing, and you just have to stop reacting to it altogether. And eventually, if you're able to master this whole non-reaction thing, they stop pushing buttons altogether. Like they eventually give up because they're like, okay, so this person was pushed the edge, like over the edge in this way and this way and this way, and now they don't react at all anymore. So something happened there. And so they go and they do it with another adult, and they do it with another adult and another one, until eventually they realize, like as they get older, they'll realize that the adults are controlling their reactions. Like it's still ticking them off, but they're just not showing it because they didn't want the kid to keep doing it. And this is how they learn to be, like, generally, if everything else is going right in their life and their upbringing, this is how a kid learns to be a well-adjusted adult. Like you'll often see students from like, I don't know, the fucking third grade who were massive button pushers, always getting on teachers' nerves. But they had like a really good home life. Like their parents were really great. Their family's great. There's no trauma, no abuse, no nothing like that. These kids grow up to be the most well-adjusted adults. Like they have a pretty solid job. They have solid social skills. They have like good friendships. Typically they end up in a really good relationship. Like their kids turn out really good, and it's because they were allowed to explore these things and learn how human beings work. But if they weren't like doing these things, if they weren't testing the bounds, if they weren't paying attention to the adults around them and how they interact with everything, then they wouldn't learn how to be well-adjusted human adults, like in that example with the girl that we think was raised by wolves. She had to learn how to be a functioning member of human society, like from the ground up. They had to teach her everything: how to use the toilet, how to speak, how to read, how to write. It was really hard. She got to a basic level of being able to like interact as a human being, but I think at some point she ended up regressing. I don't know. You'll have to look that up yourself. But yeah, I think people often, God, I swear to God, man. Oh, I'm not going to get into it. I'm not going to get into it in this video. I've ranted about this way too many times in other places to other people. Anyways. So like, people often forget. God, that almost made me forget what the fuck I was saying in the first place. So, I don't know. Adults often forget that children don't know anything when they're first born and when they're growing up. Like, everything they learn is taught to them by something or someone, either experientially or like through communication. And I think we need to learn to be more understanding about that and be more patient with them. Like, my approach to dealing with kids, especially in like summer camps, is I treat them in a respectful way, but I don't treat them like little kids. Even if they're like 5, 6 years old, I don't talk to them like they're a little kid. Like babies, I don't baby talk. I don't do that shit. I don't, because it doesn't help them. It hurts them. Like, it hurts their development. Like, studies have been done for decades now about how children whose parents talk to them the same way they would talk to any other like adult human being start talking in full sentences earlier than kids whose parents baby talked to them when they were very young. um and so like, I've sat down with 10-year-olds. Like, my first time working at a summer camp, I was a bunk counselor. Or I guess you could call it cabin counselor or whatever. They called it bunk counselor because it was just 4 beds. Like, it wasn't bunk beds, it was just regular on the ground beds for each kid. I had 4 10-year-olds in my cabin. And I constantly, from the moment I met them, I just treated them like any other adult, like in terms of talking and communication and whatnot. I just treated them like regular, everyday human adults. So I wouldn't like sugarcoat things. I mean, I wouldn't be an asshole, but I wouldn't sugarcoat things. I wouldn't like tell them to do something and expect them to just do it. Like, I would explain why I was asking them to do that. And honestly, most of the time, I wouldn't even tell them to do stuff. I'd ask them to do it and then explain why I was asking. Um, like, I would have hard conversations with them that I was in my rights to have with them. So, like, I'm not going to have puberty type talks with them unless I get the okay from someone who's higher up than me. Just because, like, they're other people's kids and we're just there to like facilitate for the most part and keep them safe. But like, after a while, like, I think 3 or 4 weeks into that summer of them being there, we were sitting there in the cabin during rest hour, which is a whole hour in most summer camps where the kids generally can't leave. They're not supposed to leave their cabins and go anywhere. Like, they're supposed to be in the cabin, hanging out, chilling, being relatively quiet, and it's just a moment for their bodies to like fully rest a little bit, because generally they're doing a lot of stuff. And we were sitting there and we were just talking, having a regular conversation, and one of the kids brought up something about death. And a lot of adults, when a kid that young, mind you, like I said, these are 10-year-old boys. When a 10-year-old brings up the concept of death, like what happens after we die, why do we die, like stuff like this, which are natural things, I think, for most people to like be curious about, especially children, because it's kind of a hard concept to understand, especially if you don't have much experience with it as a kid. And kids are just naturally curious. They're trying to figure out how the world works. A lot of adults will just kind of give a generic answer because they don't want to have that uncomfortable conversation with a kid, and they don't think a kid should be having that kind of conversation. And so they'll give a generic response when it's brought up, and then like leave it alone. Like, they won't engage with that conversation anymore. But I will, because if I don't, they're going to go somewhere else. And they'll just keep going to different adults until they find someone who will have the conversation with them. So one of the kids asked about death, and then the other 3 kids all got super interested. Like, immediately. Like, they were like reading books or writing letters or stuff. And when he asked something about death, I think it was something like, what happens when we die, you know? And the way he asked it made me feel like he wasn't asking about where we go when we die or anything like that. He was asking like physically what happens. And we ended up having a 30-minute, very in-depth conversation about the entire concept of death, different like ideas of afterlife, like different things that can lead to death, how they lead to death. And I initially told them, when I was like, hey, if y'all want to have this conversation, I'm more than happy to have it with you, but you do need to understand first, before we do it, that this will be an intense conversation. Like, this is going to be probably one of the most intense conversations that you have here at camp, because death is an intense thing. And I said, if you're not comfortable with how intense this conversation gets, you are more than welcome to let me know that you are becoming uncomfortable with the topic at hand, and then you can go out and hang out in your hammock or like play with some sticks or something around the cabin. They all sat there. Like, they all agreed to do that, and then they all sat there through the whole conversation. And it was really productive. It was really awesome. Like, getting to see these 10-year-old boys like begin to understand what we were talking about, and show that understanding in the conversation was so interesting. It was so cool, and I really wish I could remember like more of the conversation that was happening, but it's just not, I can't really access it. But it was so cool, and I was so Like, it was so interesting to me. And it just goes to show that, like, if you treat kids like little adults learning to be humans, and you come with that mindset when you interact with them, they will surprise you in really cool ways. And you will get to see really cool things unfold before your eyes that you normally would never notice. Like, I have had the same sorts of boundary conversations that I've had with actual adults that have surprised, like, this was surprising to me, honestly, at first. The boundary conversations that I've had with kids have gone better and led to respecting boundaries better than with some adults that I've had this exact same conversations with. It's just, it's so interesting what happens when you treat them like an equal instead of lesser than you and dumber than you. And kids are not dumb, and they're not, like, they're not dumb if you give them the chance to not be dumb and you don't treat them like they're dumb. The more you treat someone like a specific thing, the more that they will end up resigning themselves to being that thing, because that's all you treat them as. So if that's all you're going to ever treat them as, might as well be that. I'm not going to be treated like anything else no matter what I do. That's why you see people, like, you'll see stories about someone who was wrongly convicted and imprisoned for a crime, and they spent like 3-4 years in prison for a crime that they never did. And when they come out, they'll tell you, yeah, before I went into prison, I never did drugs. I rarely drank. I didn't smoke cigarettes. Like, I didn't steal. I was a good person. And now, like, after being in prison, I'm addicted to this drug. I stole so much shit, like, my first month out of prison, like, because when you treat someone like a criminal for long enough, they will become a criminal. It's just something in the human psyche that does that. I guess because it's the path of least resistance. I don't know. Anyways, so this is getting close to an hour-long video at this point. And like, these big, longer videos take longer to upload and process to YouTube for me. So I think I am going to split this into another video. So the next video will be about how weird humans are and why I think that we're seeing these weird, like, almost contradictory, like things where, like, we're super durable, we can survive falling 3 floors onto a piece of fucking rebar and then completely perfectly heal back from that and not have any issues. But then if we, like, step a certain way, we can break our fucking ankles. So, like, I'm gonna, and then like the whole, like, capsaicin thing, intentionally breeding incredibly hot peppers just for the hell of it. So I'm gonna talk about that in another video and then upload that, and why I think that we do those things, like making these peppers and stuff. So yeah, I'll see you in the next one.